President.
Majority Leader.
Ask unanimous consent to call the quorum be terminated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, first of all, I don't think apologies are in order. We've been doing the best we can on this for several days now. And we have a typical agreement, one that is not one that either side jumps for joy. But I think we are going to jump for joy in the fact that we're going to be able, in the near future, be able to finish this very important piece of legislation. It'll be some tough votes, but we've known that from the beginning. So, Mr. President, I appreciate everyone's patience here. I ask unanimous consent that the motion to recommit be withdrawn, that the pending second-degree amendment be withdrawn, that the read of Nevada Amendment number 1761 be agreed to, that the bill as amended be considered original text for the purpose of further amendment, and that the following amendments be the only first-degree amendments remaining in order to S. 1813, Vitter 1535, Baucus or designee relative to rural schools, Collins number 1660, Coburn 1738, Nelson, Florida, Shelby, Landreau 1822, Wyden 1817, Hooven 1837, Levin 1818, McConnell or designee with a side-by-side to Stabenow 1812, Stabenow 1812, DeMint number 1589, Menendez-Burr 1782, DeMint 1756, Bingaman 1759, Coates 1517, Brown 1819, Blunt 1540, Merkley 1653, Portman 1736, Klobuchar 1617, Corker 1785 with a modification, Shaheen 1678, Portman 1742, Corker 1810, Carper 1670, Hutchison 1568, McCain 1669 modified with changes at the desk, Alexander 1779, Boxer 1816, and Paul 1556. On Thursday, March 8th, at a time to be determined by the Majority Leader, after consultation with the Republican Leader, the Senate proceed to vote in relation to the amendments in the order listed. The following amendments be subject to a 60 affirmative vote threshold. Vitter 1535, Baucus or designee relative to rural schools, Collins 1660, Coburn 1738, Nelson, Florida, Shelby, Landreau 1822, Wyden 1817, Hooven 1537, McConnell or designee side by side to Stabenow 1812, Stabenow 1812, DeMint 1589, Menendez-Burr 1782. That there be no other amendments in order to the bill or the amendments listed other than the manager's package. There be no points of order or motions in order to any of these amendments other than the budget points of order and the applicable motions to waive. That it be in order for a manager's package to be considered and if approved by the managers and the two leaders. And the two managers are Senators Boxer and Inhofe. And that be in order for manager's package to be considered and if approved by the managers. I listed their names a second ago. And the two leaders, the manager's package be agreed to further that the bill is amended, then be read a third time and the Senate proceed to vote on passage of the bill as amended. If the bill is passed, it be held at the desk. Finally, when the Senate receives the House companion to 1813, as determined by the two leaders, it be in order for the Majority Leader to proceed to immediate consideration, strike all the enacting clause, and insert the text of 1813 as passed by the Senate in lieu thereof. That the House bill is amended be read a third time, a statutory pay-go statement be read if needed, and the bill is amended be passed. The motion to reconsider be considered made and laid on the table, that upon passage, the Senate insist on its amendment, request a conference with the House on the disagreeing votes of the two Houses, and the Chair be authorized to appoint conferees on the part of the Senate.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, I ask now we proceed to period of morning business. Senators allowed to speak therein for a period up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
I ask consent the Senate proceed to calendar number 263.
Without objection. Court will report.
Calendar number 263, S. 1855, a bill to amend the Public Health Service Act to reauthorize various programs under the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the major.
I further ask the Harkin amendment, which at the desk be agreed to. The committee report and substitutes amended be agreed to. The bill is amended be read a third time and passed. There be no intervening action or debate, and any statements relating to this measure be printed in the record at the appropriate places if given.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to S.Res. 390.
Clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 390, honoring the life and legacy of the Honorable Donald M. Payne.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion reconsider be laid on the table, there be with no intervening action or debate, and these statements be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that the Finance Committee be discharged from further consideration of S. 2152, and the bill be referred to the Committee on Foreign Relations.
Clerk will report.
S. 2152, a bill to promote United States policy objectives in Syria and so forth.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I now ask for second reading in order to comply with Rule 14 to place this on the counter, but object to my own request.
Can you hold that? Can you reiterate this request for the chair?
I'm sorry, I went over this too quickly, Mr. President. Rule 14, we've taken care of that. I objected. Is that all taken care of?
No. We do have one, but no.
Without objection, the measure will be re-referred.
Without objection, the measure will be re-referred.
Objection is bill be read. Okay, we'll start all over? Okay, start over. Let's go. I understand there's a bill at the desk. I ask for its first reading.
Clerk will read the bill for the first time.
S. 2173, a bill to preserve and protect the free choice of individual employees to form, join, or assist labor organizations or to refrain from such activities.
Mr. President, I now ask for a second reading in order to place the bill on the counter under provision of Rule 14, but object to my own request.
Objection having been heard. The bill will receive its second reading on next legislative day.
I now ask unanimous consent that on Wednesday, March 7th, the majority leader be authorized to sign duly enrolled bills or joint resolutions.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes the business day of the Senate adjourn until Thursday, March 8th at 9:30 a.m. Following the prayer and the pledge during proceedings be approved to date. Morning hour being excited in time for the two leaders will be reserved for use later in the day. Following any leader marks. Mr. President, following any leader remarks, the Senate will proceed to plenary morning business for an hour. Senators will be permitted to speak for up to 10 minutes each, with the time equally divided and controlled between the two leaders or the designees. The majority will control the first half, the Republicans the final half. Following morning business, Senate will resume consideration S. 1813.
Without objection.
Mr. President, so everyone understands, we've reached agreement to complete action on the service transportation bill. Under the order that we just entered, we can finish this tomorrow. It's a huge job. We have 30 amendments that we have to dispose of. So there is no question that Senators should expect a number of votes tomorrow. There's no further business to come before the Senate. I ask it adjourn under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 9:30 a.m.